Mr. Eric Almighty and Phil the Filipino? Yeah, they've got you covered. And all you gotta do is wait for it. This is the Wait For It podcast.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Wait For It podcast YouTube page. I am your co-host, Phil Smith, a.k.a. Phil the Filipino. And that way, hey, I got it this time, is your other co-host, Mr.
We're still
Eric
figuring
Almighty.
that out. It's
No,
not a big deal.
I got it that time.
And I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm trying to stay out of the way of it. There, look at that logo right there. We official over here.
Yeah. Look at that upgrade season. So, yeah, everybody, welcome to our latest live stream. It's been a while. Eric, what's the last one we did? I think it was Hawkeye, like a few months back. What, November, December, or something like that?
Yeah, we had to force ourselves. We had to force ourselves to do that one. that was tough. Yeah. But we've been doing a lot.
It was like
obviously
randomly on like a Thursday, like right after Christmas or something like that. And no one watched it.
Yeah, no, and that's okay. And I don't know that many people really watched Hawkeye in general. So this one is different, though. We are back with, of course.
No one really talked about it.
That's true. Well, this channel is pretty much like a dedicated superhero review channel for right now. That will change, but we're gonna kind of stick with the regular stuff moving forward.
Right. So if you are brand new to the Wait For It podcast, welcome. And typically we are of course, as the title mentions, a podcasting format, and you can find episodes literally anywhere else or anywhere that you listen to your shows. But Eric and I have been dabbling in this live stream world, just kind of trying to figure it out. And as Eric said, there'll definitely be more stuff on the way. But we are going to be talking today, as you can see in the title, about Peacemaker. The final episode recently aired last week. Eric and I binged the hell out of it over the last few weekends, or the last few days, I should say. And we're here to talk about it, and really, really excited. And for any of you that are watching, there is an option to leave any questions as well. We can display those questions as we go on. And Eric, just kind of let them know how this review is going to go, and then I'll talk about what we're going to discuss after the episode.
Yeah, so if you're new to the podcast, we go with a really, really simple layout. So we're going to start off on a positive note, obviously talking about everything we liked about the show, going episode by episode, of course, with this spoiler review. But we're going to talk about likes, dislikes in each individual episode. And then from that point, once we've gone over, what was it, Phil? 8 episodes, I believe, of Peacemaker, we're going to then give our final thoughts and an overall grade. So if you have not seen Peacemaker, this is your warning. Definitely get out of here and come back when you have watched Peacemaker, because it's an experience for sure. And if you are a fan of the DC Universe, it's definitely one you're going to want to watch.
Or if you don't care about spoilers, stick around. We can't tell you how to live your life. It's totally up to you. But you have been warned. And then, as I mentioned, Eric and I will have a very special announcement as it pertains to a giveaway we're going to be doing in the month of March, and it pertains to a local convention that we will talk about here at the end. But Eric, let's go ahead and kind of get into the episode. I'm ready if you are, and we can talk about Peacemaker, this show. I know a lot of people were kind of, I don't know if they were confused or if they were just wondering why Peacemaker, out of all the characters that came out of the Suicide Squad. Spoilers for the Suicide Squad, he does meet kind of an interesting end in that movie. So, we were kind of curious how they were going to bring this character back. And just to kind of give you guys a little bit of a synopsis, it's of course, a series created by James Gunn for HBO Max, based on the DC Comics character Peacemaker. It is the first DC Extended Universe television series and a spinoff from 2021 Suicide Squad. Of course, John Cena reprising his role as Peacemaker, with Danielle Brooks, Freddie Stroma, Chukwudi Awuji. There you go. Jennifer
Impressive.
Holland, Steve Agee, or Agee, not sure. Robert Patrick, and also starring a couple other people as well. And 8 episodes. Like Eric said, we're going to go episode by episode, and boy, was it a ride. So let's go ahead and get into episode 1 here, Eric. I guess we'll start here with a little bit of a synopsis. This one is called A Whole New World, WHIRLED. 5 months after his mission with this. I can't edit any of this, so every time I mess up,
have fun with that.
5 months after his mission with the Suicide Squad in Corto Maltese, Peacemaker has recovered from the injuries he suffered there and is discharged from the hospital. Upon returning to his trailer home, Smith is confronted by a group of Argus agents: Clemson Myrn, Amelia Harcourt, John Economos, or we'll talk about him, and newcomer Leota Adebayo. Myrn gives him the choice of returning to Belle Reef Prison or joining a new mission dubbed Project Butterfly. Smith reluctantly accepts the latter. Smith visits his father, Augie, to retrieve his pet bald eagle, Eagly. And this sounds like a homeless person's fever dream as I'm reading it. It's incredible. And acquire a new outfit. He then has dinner with the team, and Myrn gives him a dossier of an assassination target. Smith later attempts to flirt with Harcourt in a bar, but is rejected, and instead goes home with a different woman, Annie Struphausen. Adebayo privately discusses her role in Project Butterfly with her mother, Argus leader Amanda Waller. Struphausen attacks Smith and reveals that she has superhuman strength. In the ensuing fight, Smith activates a sonic boom weapon in his helmet that destroys her. So, lots going on here in episode 1, Eric. We're getting, of course, the reintroduction of Peacemaker. We see him leaving the hospital and talking to that janitor as well, whose name I don't have here in front of me, but that was a really funny exchange too. But yeah, we started this, as I mentioned, we started it a little late, and we had been hearing really, really good things about it. So, of course, we were both excited to start this. And yeah, what do you think about the introductory episode, A Whole New World, as far as Peacemaker?
I mean, I loved it. I thought it was really, really fun. I thought it was very fast paced for just an intro episode. Peacemaker does a really good job about that throughout its 8-episode run. Like, it does, even in its slow moments, it does feel like it actually has and serves a purpose. But I would say, I mean, if I had to pick my favorite thing out of the entire episode, it was just the introduction of a lot of these characters and reintroduction of characters like Peacemaker, and how they did that really, really well. I like that they set up a real clear tone for the show right there in episode 1. And in a very James Gunn-like fashion, the show is just hilarious. So that started with this episode and continues on throughout the rest. So those were just a couple things that I liked, but probably my favorite was, again, just a really solid reintroduction of some characters and intro to new characters that honestly I walked away really liking by the end of it.
Yeah, this whole thing, and this is going to be a theme throughout this entire live stream, Eric, is it doesn't work if not only John Cena isn't likable, but the characters around him are unlikable. And who better, of course, than James Gunn to take a character that no one really knows much about and bring that character into the forefront. Of course, we all know his success with Guardians of the Galaxy. And, thank God Disney very, very temporarily stopped working with him, because otherwise we would have never gotten this, most likely, right? Or if we did, we would have gotten way, way down the line. So shout out to Disney for making this whole thing possible. And yeah, like you said, it does a very, very good job at setting the tone. Whoa, I need to drink some water here in a second. A really, really good job at setting the tone for the entire show. And again, another thing we're going to be talking about through this entire thing, Eric, is just, I was so impressed with John Cena from beginning to end, and I am ready to go to bat that John Cena has off to a better start than The Rock. Yes, I'm going to go there. And maybe it's not surprising if you've been listening to the Wait For It podcast for a while. Team Cena over The Rock.
That doesn't seem necessary. I don't feel like you had to bring The Rock in this, but
I think I did.
I mean,
especially since they're both in the DCEU now.
I mean, him and Batista have both had a better start, right, to their careers. But it's also different timing, and The Rock did pave the path for people like John Cena. So, I'm just saying, maybe show some respect.
Nah, that's okay. I also really love the part of the episode where, of course, Eagly gives him a hug, and he's just he's trying to. There's nobody around to see it, so the way that they pay that off a little bit later, not only in the series but also in that episode where it's Adebayo, where she's like, an eagle hugged you, and what does he say? If you don't want to believe in miracles, that's on you. There's a
lot of quotable lines in this show. That's what I really like about it. It's just how funny it was. That's its key factor and like appeal, like is just James Gunn's humor is usually a hit, outside of one particular Marvel movie that we won't really, talk on. You could listen to Up High Down Low, which was an episode we did earlier this year that you can listen to for that.
Yeah, we won't discuss that particular project. Let's get into episode 2 here, Eric, which is called Best Friends for Never. Smith contacts Harcourt and explains his situation as Evergreen's police force arrives to investigate the sonic boom. While collecting his things, Smith comes across a mysterious device in Stroophausen's apartment. Smith briefly takes a couple hostage and is able to escape from their apartment's balcony, getting away with Eagly, Harcourt, and Adebayo. Larry Fitzgibbon investigates Stroophausen's death. They arrest Augie after Eric touches Smith's fingerprints for his in the police system, and Adebayo bribes the couple into identifying Augie as the man who took them hostage. In prison, Augie is hailed by a group of white inmates as the White Dragon. Smith realizes that Stroophausen only tried to attack him after reading the dossier he had on his assassination target and tells the team. Feeling shunned by them, Smith returns to his trailer and is greeted by his one-time crime-fighting partner, Vigilante. Vigilante invites Smith to target practice to raise his spirits, and with him discovers that the device from Stroophausen's apartment is a miniature spaceship. So, Eric, episode 2, again, another jam-packed episode, and it really, these episodes were about 45 minutes long. I never felt like they had jammed too much into them. Did you feel that same way too? Like, I was never overwhelmed with information.
No, and I mean, the story with me, and you guys know this already, is I am an avid anime watcher. So watching anything over 20 minutes, it really has to capture my attention. And when it comes to pacing, for the most part, again, this show isn't perfect, but for the most part, this show does do a good job at that. And Phil, I mean, when I was going through it again, it felt really smooth from start to finish in most of the episodes. And I appreciated that. It was just a really good time and a good ride. And I mean, that starts off with the opening. We didn't even bring up the opening for the first episode, which again puts you in the mood to watch this show every single time. It's a straight bop. I don't know how I've never heard that song before, but you know what I'll say really quick is James Gunn usually is really good with music. This is one of his best. I don't know if he selects the songs. He has a buddy that does it, but this is Guardians-esque as far as just some of the songs that come through each and every episode. They're unique, they're likable, and again, the opening, just straight banger.
It's one of the few shows I have ever watched where I did not skip the intro because it's just so, their deadpan looks going through that choreography the whole time is so funny. And God, I can't imagine just how much fun it was to be. I mean, we hear the Guardians cast all the time praise working with James Gunn. So imagine working with James Gunn and someone like John Cena, who again is really perfecting this this comedy, right? It's not easy to do this. On surface level, you think that Peacemaker is just like this, jock stereotypical character, and he is not. If you haven't seen the some of the articles about John Cena making Peacemaker bisexual, that's John Cena's character choice, and that's something that he fought for, and that's something that we see in this episode. So much more of a complex character than I ever imagined, Eric, and a lot of that is because of John Cena. So kudos to him for bringing forth a character that, again, I had never heard of, who has the most ridiculous outfit, but it just works. It just works so well.
It really does. And the fact that he needs to have a dove on all his weapons and just some of these stupid.
Every time I draw a dove, every time I try to draw my own dove, it comes out looking like a ghost. I love just the subtle stuff, because I know stuff like this just makes us laugh when he draws it himself, and he's just they spend a minute just focusing on him drawing.
On him drawing it and fucking it up right then and there.
Fuck. That's the whole thing. And it's so good.
It is.
Oh, man.
Really good. Really good stuff. And again, this is also episode 2 is where obviously we're really kind of dealing with the ramifications and understanding like we're starting to get an idea of like the butterflies and all of that. Like we're getting there. We're not there yet as far as the reveals, but again, a lot of intrigue at this point in the series. Episode 2 was a good one.
Yeah, and then another thing we haven't even mentioned is we get Vigilante, Freddie Stroma, who was an absolute standout for this. That
Fantastic.
guy is going to be, I mean, I would watch maybe not a whole show of just him, but if you gave him like partnered him with maybe Adebayo or Harcourt or something like that, I would watch the hell out of that show. He was fantastic, and he's gonna come up a lot in this because he was outstanding.
If they ever do a second Suicide Squad, that would be great. A great addition. Great addition.
I mean, I agree with you, but I would just be terrified he would die. Like I was worried he wasn't going to make it through this. So
he's got it. He's good.
All right, well, let's get to episode 3 here, which is called Better Goff Dead. Myrn briefs Smith on their first mission to assassinate United States Senator Royland Goff, a suspected butterfly. Smith expresses hesitance to kill Goff's wife and children, who were also presumed butterflies, despite previously saying that he was willing to do so for peace. Smith and Harcourt stake out the Goff household and are soon joined by a tag-along vigilante. When the Goff family are seen displaying alien-like behavior, Myrn orders Smith to assassinate them all, but he hesitates. Vigilante takes over and successfully kills Goff's wife and children. But before he can kill Goff, the family's bodyguard judo master intervenes and incapacitates Smith and Vigilante. Inside the house, Goff tries to force Smith to give up information by torturing Vigilante and unmasking him as Adrian Chase. They are interrupted by Myrn, Harcourt, and Adebayo, giving Smith the opportunity to free himself and kill Goff while Economos incapacitates Judo Master. Smith and Vigilante witness a butterfly-like creature emerge from Goff's corpse, and an Argus computer shows that those butterflies are suspected to be all over the world. So, episode 3, we get again a lot of really, really memorable moments. I think this is the moment where we get the where we do see him drawing the dove piece on the sniper rifle, which was really, really funny. And yeah, Vigilante, just him hiding in the bushes, like doing a terrible job at hiding, and his just willingness to murder this family, even though at that point we knew, okay, they're no longer people. But he's just like humming his way through assassinating these children.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, a psychopath. But that's kind of why we like him, right? Like that's ultimately why we like that character. And I don't know, that made me like that character even more. So that says a lot about me, I guess. But with the butterfly stuff, this was really kind of intriguing at this point. And this is what I mentioned with like the last episode, like getting that first inkling that like there's like aliens. Like this just seemed perfect for like a James Gunn story. And I liked, like, it was really grand scale, but like also really grounded. Like, again, when we get to the end without jumping ahead, you could see like a super team or like a big superhero needing to deal with this problem. But at the same time, it didn't feel that big. So it made sense that this was like a Peacemaker story. So I like that because ultimately you don't really have like a real villain of the show. Although, Phil, in this episode, I believe, and it might have been like end of episode 2 going into this one, this is where we kind of get the hints that his dad is going to play kind of that villainous role, right? Because he's getting framed for the things that happened in the first episode.
And again, let's give a shout out to him as well. Of course, a lot of people will remember him, of course, from Terminator 2, but that is Robert Patrick, who just does an excellent job of making you just hate his guts. I mean, he's a racist, he's homophobic, he's obviously mentally abused both of his children, probably definitely physically abused both of them as well. And he just really makes you buy into hating that character. And yeah, like you said, that is it gives you somebody to root against, so he did a really, really good job.
You did concern me with how much you enjoyed the Asian jokes. That was you laughed at a lot of them. You also quoted some. I may add.
It's pretty funny. When you can separate, when you understand that what you're, when the type of setting is right, then it's whatever.
Okay, you heard it here first.
This racism is killing me inside. But yeah, really great episode. Judo Master was a really fun character. I love him just like flicking the shit out of those Cheetos at Peacemaker. um, Peacemaker just having no regard for Vigilante being tortured. It was just really good. And I think was it this episode? It might have been the next episode where where Peacemaker mentions like, they're really not like Argus really isn't good with naming their projects, because of course Project Starfish ended up being Starro in the Suicide Squad, and then this of course ends up being Butterflies and it's Project Butterfly. So
yeah, it's a little on the nose.
Really great.
We get our first kind of like really big reveal in episode 4, so I'm excited to talk about that because I do want to hear your thoughts on if you saw where it was going. Because episode 3, for me, I still don't really know where the story is going at this point. It does get predictable at some point, but I could definitely say episode 3, I'm still on my toes.
And let's also give a shout out to Economos, who is just getting bullied by Peacemaker from episode 1. And towards the end, oh god, yeah, that poor guy. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into episode 4 here, which is the Chode Less Traveled. The group take Judo Master back to their headquarters, where Smith claims that he killed the butterfly. Chase drives Smith to Augie's house to retrieve new equipment, where Smith learns that Augie has been framed and arrested. Against Murn's wishes and despite Adebayo trying to talk him down, Smith visits Augie in prison. Audie threatens to expose Project Butterfly to the police. Adebayo suggests to Chase that Smith would be better off without his father, and Chase gets himself arrested so he can kill Augie. Smith and Adebayo return to their headquarters, where an escaped Judo Master attacks Smith. Adebayo shoots Judo Master before he can reveal a secret about the butterflies. Smith returns to his trailer, where he is keeping the butterfly creature alive in a jar and reflects on having to kill Rick Flag, as well as his traumatic childhood that included the death of his brother. In prison, Chase provokes Augie's prison mates into fighting but fails to get Augie involved. He is later bailed out by Harcourt. Adebayo finds a lead on the butterflies and informs Murn, who is secretly a butterfly himself. So, Eric, like you said, this is where we do get that reveal when Adebayo puts on that 3D helmet. But before we talk about that, I do want to talk about the whole the scene as far as what's his name? Gosh, why am I blanking on this? On Vigilante getting arrested and getting into prison. And this is also after he has had a toe cut off. I wonder if he ever got, like, they never addressed that. Like, did he ever get it taken care of? Like, maybe in prison once he got arrested?
I just like to think it healed on its own. That's probably what happened.
That whole bit went on for so long about the balancing on your pinky.
That's not true.
And
that's
not true at all. Yeah, it's the most important toe on the foot. And he just does such an excellent job with that whole. And then also, remember, Vigilante is a stone cold killer, right? But he gets into prison and reveals that he is this progressive, forward-thinking person. Even though I think in episode 1, he openly talks about, maybe I've killed some innocent people on accident.
Well, yeah, because later on he's like, man, we used to be so cool. Like, we'd accidentally kill an innocent person, but it wouldn't be a big deal. And then we just shake it off. Like, he definitely was very open about that. But I mean, that's what Peacemaker was kind of like. That's what they were alluding to, is that he was very careless. And you get that vibe when you meet him in the Suicide Squad. So again, a lot of character growth happening for Peacemaker, but I did find myself enjoying a lot of the things with the side characters at this point. When we're getting to the middle of the show, I'm wondering what direction we're going to go into, and Murn being a butterfly was not something I saw, but then when it happened, it was like, that makes sense. Like, that's solid. So I really liked the reveal of it. I enjoyed it. Again, Vigilante at this point is my favorite character in the show because he's hilarious and all of his actions are just chaotic, and I love that. That's a really good little theme for the show as far as that character, what he brings to it.
Yeah, he again, like, all of these characters are so layered, and we didn't even mention we even haven't mentioned like the importance of performances like Harcourt and Adebayo. And Harcourt is portrayed by Jennifer Holland. And Jennifer Holland and James Gunn recently got engaged. So if you guys haven't heard about that, that's pretty cool. So congratulations to both of them. And just characters that are not one note, which again shouldn't be that surprising because they weren't one note in the Suicide Squad. So to make us care about all these characters, even someone, especially somebody like Economos, who's just again getting bullied the whole damn show, is a very impressive thing. Yeah, I felt like something was up with Myrn just because of how he was behaving comparatively to the rest of the team. He was, when you looked at in episode 3 how the senator and his family were acting, you picked up on a lot of similarities as far as how Myrn was. And there's also that moment, Eric, where Myrn is talking to Economos about like, I used to be this, stone cold person, and I never used to have any kind of feelings. And that's what tipped me off first. And when I was like, okay, something's going on with this guy. And I think maybe, maybe either this guy is working with the butterflies or could possibly be one. So, that's one of the things about the show. And we talked about this before we recorded this episode, I think the other day, is I do think it kind of got a little, it was a little easy to predict some of the things. But again, you're just having so much fun that like you don't really care.
And that's where I am at the middle of Peacemaker. Like that's I'm just enjoying the ride. It's a really really fun experience. I think it's when we get closer to the end that we've run into a couple bumps. So let's see where else we get into with episode 5 and what else comes next, because I definitely know there's going to be a couple criticisms like as we get on, especially when it comes to Peacemaker and his dad for me.
Well, let's get to episode 5, Eric, which is the most terrifying episode. It's called Monkey Dory. And at Augie's urging, Song and Fitzgibbon realize that Smith killed Stroophausen after double-checking Augie's fingerprints and reinterrogating the couple that Smith held hostage. The team is briefed about how the butterflies enter human hosts and only feed on an unknown amber fluid. Adebayo's clue leads them to a nearby bottling factory where the liquid is processed and bottled, while Myrn enlists an associate, Casper Locke, to pose as the new police captain and undermine Song's investigation. Song resorts to requesting help from her uncle, a judge, who is Judge Judy. Smith uses, not the Judge Judy, that's just his name, by the way. Smith uses a helmet with x-ray vision to learn that all of the factory employees are butterflies, as well as an escaped gorilla named Charlie. They kill the employees, and Economos earns Smith's respect by killing Charlie with a chainsaw. The team bond on the way back from the factory, and Smith invites Adebayo to drink at his home, where she advises him to be nicer to others. She also secretly plants a diary in his home as ordered by Waller. Returning to the office, Adebayo discovers that with Smith's x-ray helmet, that Myrn is a butterfly, and he attacks her. So I was actually in an episode early, Eric. This is where, of course, they find out that Myrn is the butterfly with the x-ray helmet. So yeah, episode 5 again. So when I saw that a gorilla had escaped the zoo, I think they teased that in episode 4. I'm like, are they introducing Gorilla Zod? Is it Gorilla Zod? Is that his name from Flash?
Oh wow, that was
Gorilla
Grodd.
Grodd. I was like, that doesn't seem right. I think Zod. I think I combined two characters.
Yeah, the Superman Zod and Gorilla.
So
Grodd.
I was like, that's not what they're doing here, is it? And of course, that's not what happens.
Thank God.
And that gorilla gets
yeah.
And that gorilla gets it probably deserved it. But anyway, episode 5, Eric. Monkey Dory, what do you think about episode 5?
Okay, well, I feel like that was biased with your hate towards monkeys. I would have really liked to have like a Gorilla Grodd cameo. That would have been really cool. I understand why you don't do that. Listen, we get a big cameo at the end. I'm not complaining. I like this show again because it made me care about the characters. So like when you're seeing this ultimate betrayal and you're seeing like Amanda Waller's presence, just not really in the show, but through her daughter, like then the relationship between her and Peacemaker, like a lot of these things are working and you're just seeing it start to crack and crumble a little bit. You're starting to see that team dynamic that was almost, you couldn't even imagine it in episode 1. And I think they do a great job of building this team from the ground up and making it feel kind of like a family, like a group of misfits. And that's what James Gunn does, right? With Guardians of the Galaxy, with the Suicide Squad. He pretty much takes those elements of those two movies and he brings it here on a more grounded Peacemaker, as far as these smaller characters. I really appreciated that. And that continued here when they started to sprinkle in some, deception and obviously mistrust. These are the type of things that I was looking forward to getting paid off. And, for the most part, they did a really good job paying those off.
And, Eric, until this point, we haven't really mentioned this, and this is something that, is kind of spoiling my final thoughts as well. But Peacemaker is 8 episodes, and what has been these almost the same complaint about every single one of these Marvel shows? 6 episodes. It makes absolutely no sense. Look what they were able to accomplish with an extra 2 episodes that for some reason they refused to do over at Marvel. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. Maybe they'll change it now.
I mean, maybe, but probably not. Like Moon
Some
Knight,
of those shows have already been, they're already filming or have been filmed.
Yeah.
So
I don't know that they're going to change that formula necessarily. Maybe, let's also not, compare the two budgets. Like again, Peacemaker, very, very down to earth almost, even though there are butterflies, obviously. Outside of the butterflies, this all takes place in like a town or like, like in these rural settings. Like it's not like extravagant, but like the set pieces in the Marvel shows, keep in mind, that's like a whole nother level. And Peacemaker, while it does deal with like an alien invasion, I mean, at one point later on, they end up at a farm. Like that's the location. Like again, it's not like high level quality CGI that's being placed. And maybe that afforded them the opportunity to tell a little bit more of an intimate story through 8 episodes. Marvel is not going to let go of that big budget. So maybe that's why we keep getting 6. That's more of a thought or a theory. The execs at Disney are going to have to explain that because it just doesn't make sense. There are better shows out there with 1 or 2 more episodes. WandaVision alone would have just really benefited from maybe an extra episode, but the rest of them, at least 2. At least 2. Although I'm glad we didn't get any more episodes than we needed to of Loki. So I
WandaVision has 9, and it's the best one to date. So
that's true.
Yeah, we weren't trying to make this about it, but I mean, when we're talking about superhero spaces, it's just going to come up. So we do apologize. But yeah, again, a lot of really great humor. I love the moment of them riding back on the in the van, and Harcourt snaps that picture, which you just know is going to pop up again soon in a meaningful way, and it certainly does. You also get the moment. I thought that was really funny, Eric, where because of course Adrian is just very upset that Economos got the moment with the chainsaw when he just was talking about wanting to kill somebody with the chainsaw, and you could just see like that whole moment where he's just like trying to explain to Peacemaker, like, man, what would be really cool is if he was like, if he threw me the chainsaw and then I killed the girl.
I do skipping ahead. I do like the next episode at the beginning where he's like, isn't that a little bit of a coincidence that like I bring up wanting to use a chainsaw and then he just happens to do it? That's not suspicious.
Like Economos planned that they were going to run into a giant gorilla and then just happened to have the chainsaw. Like that was his thought process, is that Economos was trying to undermine him the entire time.
For every cool moment, but it was funny because like for every cool moment he then had a moment where he got like his ass kicked by Judo Master, or he broke his leg on a fucking trip. Again, like it was constant.
Had to admit, like that poor guy.
Oh yeah, about the beard. That monologue was hilarious. But let's not skip ahead. Again, a hilarious moment.
All right, well, let's get to episode 6 here, which is called Myrn After Reading. Myrn reveals to Adebayo that the butterflies came from a dying planet, and the Goth butterfly led the others in a plan to dominate Earth, with Myrn being the sole dissenter. To Locke's dismay, Song releases Augie from prison and acquires an arrest warrant for Smith. At Smith's trailer, the Goth butterfly attempts to communicate with Smith and Chase, but the Evergreen police force arrives to arrest Smith. Chase accidentally breaks the butterfly's jar, allowing it to take over Song. Smith, Chase, and Eagly escape with Locke's help, while the latter acquires the fake diary. Economos traces the butterflies' activities to Coverdale Ranch, where they believe the butterflies are using a cow to mass produce the amber fluid. Adebayo feels guilty about hiding secrets from Smith and her mother. Butterfly Song summons a butterfly army and takes over the Evergreen police force, prisoners, and Locke. Augie prepares his followers and puts on the white dragon armor, intending to kill his son. Butterfly Locke uses the fake diary to publicly incriminate Smith and issue an arrest warrant. So, Eric, episode 6 is where we are getting the buildup for, of course, this finale. And I was really happy that at this point, I still know there are 2 episodes left. So I know that they're not going to have to rush through this conflict, which is really nice.
That's what I liked about it. Now, again, when we talk about the payoffs at the end, there's a lot of hits, a couple misses. This is just a setup episode. I mean, Phil, I don't really know that there was anything really memorable per se, because this does a lot of setup for the final 2 episodes, which is fine. A show can afford to do that when it's given 8 episodes. So I don't really have much that I remember from this one, other than a ton of setup with the diary. You see the obvious conflict with the White Dragon and that father-son dynamic. So there are hints throughout the show about kind of like his origin, but we don't get that until obviously a little bit later on, a little bit more clarity. So again, this was just a payoff episode, or a setup episode, I should say, for the payoffs we get later on.
Yeah, not a whole lot going on, of course, there. I mean, the scene with them escaping the trailer maybe goes on like a little bit too long, right? With them like climbing out and then climbing onto the tree and then going into the woods. Like that whole segment maybe could have done something else there. But
Yeah.
I mean, again, that's nitpicky shit,
Pretty much at this point. Yeah, no, there are definitely some other flaws, but again, not bad at all.
Yeah. So, a big setup as far as the final fight, which we're getting to here in just a moment. Let's go ahead and get into episode 7, which is called "Stop Dragging My Heart Around." Feeling betrayed by Adebayo and running out of time, Smith sets out to find the cow with Chase, Eagly, and a reluctant Economos. They are intercepted by Augie and his followers. Harcourt confronts Adebayo on her secret mission and betrayal, learning of her relationship to Waller in the progress. Murn attempts to leave with them, but the butterfly-possessed police arrive and kill him. Judo Master then attacks Harcourt and Adebayo, who eventually defeat him. Smith is caught by Augie's followers, and Eagly is injured by Augie. Chase hits a weak point in Augie's armor, disabling his weapons, while Economos kills Augie's followers. Smith confronts Augie about the events that led to Smith accidentally killing his brother Keith when they were children, and then he kills Augie. The team reunites at a veterinary clinic where Eagly recovers. Without Murn, they appoint Harcourt as their new leader. They prepare to kill the cow before the butterflies can teleport it to another enclave. Adebayo tries to apologize to Smith, but he tells her that their friendship is over. So, this kind of serves as, I would say this was like finale part 1, right? Like 7 and 8 could have been like so-and-so part 1 and then so-and-so part 2, because they are kind of an extension of each other. And, a lot of really great stuff here. Just the sheer concern I had for Eagly, Eric, is concerning because I was very worried that Eagly was not okay. And then, of course, we get the wonderful moment in the veterinarian's clinic. Also, where the moment where Vigilante is like, we're gonna have to kill these guys.
I love how on board they were to be a part of the team too. After they got their live spirit,
they're ready to
let's go.
They're like, no, you'll literally die.
You'll die. You'll die immediately.
Yeah.
The payoff with the eagle was hilarious. With Eagly is hilarious. At the end, I just saw a human, an eagle hug a human. That is hilarious to me. This is the episode where I'm gonna have to take a little bit of a grade off for my final grade, and I'm enjoying the series so far. Up until this point, they've kind of had some serious moments, but a lot of that has been overshadowed with like jokes and things of that nature. So again, it's not taking itself too seriously. When we get to this episode, and again, Phil, I'm curious what you think, because I would argue they should have just picked one. I mean, it's not, at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal, but to me, either make a really dedicated story about Peacemaker versus his dad as the White Dragon and really dive into that like background and that origin story, or go with the butterfly route. This felt like more of an inconvenience on the path to the butterflies, and I just don't know. I didn't really feel there were a lot of stakes, or I didn't really care about those stakes when it came to him and his father. And then, he didn't even really have a like emotional moment afterwards. They like immediately joked about his face. So, it's just again, it's almost nitpicky, but that's what stops us from being like a perfect show or like a must see, you have to see it experience. Is just there are a lot of tropes that are in here, and then on top of that, when they have a chance to really get you as far as an emotional investment, they pull back and they give you jokes instead, or they give you something funny to look at instead. And that's not a bad thing. I enjoyed it. I had a great time. Not everything has to be super serious, but whenever they kind of like dived into those darker topics, they pulled back. That's how I felt, at least.
So you're saying they should have either just do the butterflies or do the white dragon? Is that what you're saying? Like, do
yeah, or set up the white dragon as something to do in season 2. Like it just felt like a side plot when it seemed pretty important to Peacemaker's character for that to be resolved in that manner. I just didn't get the buy, like him killing his dad. I didn't get that buy-in, like, oh, that's what you needed. And I know they hinted like he's gonna kind of be there as a shadow moving forward. But I don't know. Like, I just didn't really buy into that relationship fully. And part of that is also because you see Peacemaker with his team growing relationships, and his dad is in prison the whole time up until the time they meet and they fight. So they only really get that interaction in the house. And then you see a couple flashbacks. Like, that's not really enough for me to get invested in a character relationship. So in a show that strength is relationships, its weakness for me was this particular one, where they didn't really do a good job creating that bond for me.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I it didn't really bother me again too much, but I again, like you said, it really was more of a detour situation as opposed to maybe being something that could be much more important. Let's get to a comment here from Jordan. Thanks so much for coming in here, Jordan. She said my favorite part about their fight with Judo Master is that they just leave him there after kicking his ass, and that definitely happens after he gets shot the first time. Like they just leave him in the parking lot until you see that he's been again strapped in later on in the episode, and then here I'm pretty sure they tie him up after the fight in the hotel room, right? I think he gets
gets tied up a couple times. Oh yeah, then he gets tased.
He gets
like a lot.
And again, backtracking a little bit, the drop kick he delivers to Economos is brutal. Like Economos is obviously not someone that is meant to be in the field. He is a behind the scenes specialist. And again, like you said, in this next episode, just gets brutally injured. For like no apparent reason. That poor guy just gets the shit kicked out of him the entire season. But he also got to kill a gorilla with a chainsaw, which I'm kind of I'm a little jealous of.
A lot of highs, a lot of lows. That's pretty much where we are.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then of course we see the moment where he gets the photo, the selfie with Eagly hugging him finally, and like you said, Adebayo sees it as well. So, I was it in this episode? I think it was episode 8, which of course we're going to talk about here in a moment, where Adebayo is trying to apologize and they just do the fart noises the entire time. Like, was that 7 or 8?
I believe that's 8. I could be wrong though, because I feel like it happens after. Yeah, I didn't like it. It's just like those little things towards the end. I was just looking for a little bit more serious resolution, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting, but I don't know. It let me down. That went on really long.
I think you're just expecting too much character growth when he's still obviously got a lot of shit to learn.
I mean, I guess so, but come on now. Like that the fart noise thing went on for like 2 minutes too long. And I was like, yeah.
All right, well, let's get to the finale here, and then we're going to get to our final grades in just a moment. Episode 8, called It's Cow or Never. Adebayo contacts Waller and requests that the Justice League or other backup be sent, but there is not enough time. Economos plants Smith's sonic boom helmet at the butterfly's base, but it fails to kill the cow. Smith, Harcourt, and Chase begin an assault, killing many butterflies, but Harcourt and Chase are seriously injured, and Adebayo is forced to fight to save Harcourt. Butterfly's song appears. Spares Smith and explains that the butterflies are protecting the planet from humans who prioritize profit over their own survival. She asked for his help, but Smith decides to kill the cow by launching Adebayo into it using his human torpedo helmet. Smith shoots Song's body, sparing the Goth butterfly. The Justice League arrived to help too late. Hold on. The Justice League arrived too late to help. Harcourt, Economos, and Chase undergo medical treatment while Smith and Adebayo make amends. Adebayo then exposes Project Butterfly, Task Force X, and Waller's role in both to the press. Clearing Smith's name, Smith returns home with Eagly and the Goth butterfly, who he feeds the last of the amber fluid. He is haunted by hallucinations of Augie. Now, Eric, you kind of tease it here a little bit as far as some missteps down the stretch. I'm not sure if there are any more in here. I'm feeling like maybe one of them you're referring to is just kind of how long they spend in the woods before they actually like move in on the barn. Am I right there?
It takes a long time. Then, there's the dropping of the helmet and there's stuff like that. I mean, it was just, yeah, I don't know. I just, something about it just didn't go as clean as I thought it would. But again, more of my issues were with Augie and that storyline with Peacemaker and his dad. So here we did find James Gunn loves his kaijus. Like he just, he loves those big monsters. Better than what we got in the Suicide Squad. I get it. A little bit more subtle, a little bit more just kind of there for the plot. And Peacemaker's helmets came into play, which I thought was a cool thing throughout the show. I didn't even know in the Suicide Squad that he had different helmets, so that was something we never mentioned. The human torpedo, hilarious.
So good.
So good. There was a lot of good moments, though. I really enjoyed this episode overall. We get that big cameo as well, which apparently, in order to get Ezra Miller to do his part, he had to come on the set of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, they use Marvel cameras to film.
I think that's super cool, and that James Gunn has that ability. But overall, this episode was good. It was a good climax for the Butterfly, storyline, which was the main storyline they were going with. So again, when it comes down to that piece, I mean, I was satisfied with the ending overall. Peacemaker had to make a choice. He made a choice. He made ultimately the right choice. And again, it was good. It was good. Good, not great. And I'm trying to wrap my head around why it wasn't great, but it was a good ending.
With I don't know, I'm just now thinking of this. Didn't the cow in this episode kind of look like a character in Monsters vs. Aliens? Isn't there a character that looks just like that in Monsters vs. Aliens that turns into the butterfly?
A little bit more furry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's basically what it looked like. So yeah, like you said,
seeing it get milked was uncomfortable. So that might have been
There's a lot of uncomfortable visuals in this episode. Again, talking about Economos just breaking his leg on seemingly nothing except for like the bottom of a fence, which again, that poor guy. I really enjoyed it. And also like, especially in superhero stories, no matter what it be, whether it be in Marvel or DC or other shows, if it benefits greatly when there is a villain that you can kind of not relate to, but understand their what they're going for. Like that's what makes other villains such as like the Lokis of the world and the Killmongers. Those villains are relatable and iconic because you're like, okay, I kind of I kind of see where they're coming from. So the fact that they were able to kind of breathe, and then also Butterfly Song appealing to Peacemaker, you were the only person that was, that you were nice to me, you fed me, you talked to me, all that kind of stuff. It all came into play, and I thought it was certainly well done. Again, they probably could have filled some of that other time with them in the woods a lot more. Like, did we need the whole thing of them, like you said, searching for? I mean, maybe that's the point, is to set up that Augie is now going to be, like you said, this character that Peacemaker sees in his mind. Maybe that's what they're going for and taking that moment, but you probably could have done that a little bit differently. But again, that's not anything that really, really bothered me. But what else about the finale, Eric, did you want to discuss before we get into our final grades?
Honestly, it was just, again, the humor that lands a lot of the time, and the humor continues to land here. I just enjoyed it. I just enjoyed it for what it was. This was a show I didn't take too seriously, and I also didn't really have high expectations going into it. So, Phil, honestly, when it comes to the finale, I was just glad we got a really clear resolution for the main storyline. From start to finish, I think they did a really, really great job. The cameo again was fun. It was a nice little thing. They didn't need to do that personally. It was just like a cherry on top to what was a good season overall. Phil, was there anything that you liked or didn't like that we haven't covered? Because otherwise, I think we can jump into our grades. I feel pretty confident after talking about it what my grade's going to be.
Nothing that really stands out. I like that in this universe, Aquaman, even though he looks like Jason Momoa, is still just a joke. Like the whole fucking fish thing and him just being a just a weird character is I love that carried over into this. And yeah, it just worked really well. And what I was thinking that the cameo was, because you and Jordan had kind of teased this. I thought Flag was coming back somehow, and they were going to introduce him for season, save him for season 2. Who knows? That's yet to be seen. But if they will somehow find a way to bring that character back. It'd be really difficult to do, but they could do it, especially with the all the different multiverses and all that kind of stuff coming up. But I thought it was going to be Rick Flag. Could not believe it was half of the Justice League. So the fact that they got that done was awesome. But yeah, that's about it for me, Eric. I mean, again, I felt it was a very rewarding finale, and really benefited from the little bit of a slow burn. And again, the human torpedo, just her like being shot through the cow was just disgusting, but so funny. Really good. I enjoyed the hell out of it.
So then now we're here. Final thoughts and grades. Phil, do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I can go first. I'll go over the Rotten Tomatoes score here first. Currently, it is sitting at a 93% certified fresh for critics and an 88% audience score. So a little bit lower on the audience side, which is, is interesting. You don't necessarily see that all the time. But let's go ahead and get into our final grades here, Eric. Let me pull mine up. And, I continue to be more and more impressed with John Cena's transition into mainstream entertainment. And even though I was pretty confident after seeing his portrayal of this character in last year's Suicide Squad, I was still blown away by the range and depth he brought to this character. James Gunn just has a knack for bringing obsolete characters into the forefront, so there really isn't anybody more perfect than him to be at the helm for a project like this, and I hope they give him the opportunity to do more characters. But Cena's presence is equally matched by his supporting cast. Freddie Stroma, as we talked about, as Vigilante. Danielle Brooks as Dadabayo. I was already a big fan of hers from Orange is the New Black. They deserve special shout-outs for their stellar performances. Naturally, you're going to compare these DC shows to the Marvel Plus Disney shows. The Marvel Disney Plus shows. And of course, the audience for Peacemaker is going to be very different than the audience for a show like Hawkeye. But DC has a leg up when it comes to the television portion in this war for viewers, at least in my opinion, because I had more fun in these than any of the other Marvel shows combined, maybe outside of WandaVision, but definitely, if you compare all the rest of them. Now, for me, while Peacemaker could be a little bit predictable at times, it was just way too fun for me to give less than a 9 out of 10, and I cannot wait for season 2.
That is solid. That is actually really solid. I feel like I'm going to be the jerk here because my score is technically lower. Peacemaker is a pleasant surprise. That is kind of surprising in itself when you realize James Gunn was leading the charge. So it really, I guess, shouldn't be much of one if you consider he usually has more hits than he does misses. Sure, it's not the greatest superhero story or show, but it has just enough heart to make it special in its own right. John Cena is hilarious once again, and while the show shows more, serious emotional beats that are lackluster or they're just overrun with jokes most of the time, especially when it comes to the stuff with Peacemaker and his dad, his performance overall gives this famous wrestler turned actor his Hollywood role that will likely lead to many more leading roles. The supporting cast is really strong here, to the point where I cared about some of these really small characters as much as I did the bigger characters in the Suicide Squad, I enjoyed this quite a bit. It was a lot of fun. Despite its small flaws, which is why I'm giving it an 8.5 out of 10, I really, really debated whether or not to give it a 9. And I don't know. I just felt like there was just something missing for me to give it that high of a grade. But an 8.5, I definitely couldn't go lower. And I don't want to because it's a really, really good show. So if you are a fan of DC, you should definitely be watching this. This is a must watch if you are a fan of the DC franchises. So that in itself makes it worth a watch.
You said like you were so drastically off from what I did.
I mean, I feel like I personally
7.5.
I personally feel like that half score is pretty big. I feel like that's pretty big because like a show being a 9 or higher is a pretty significant difference than being like an 8 or an 8.5. That to me,
I feel like 8.5 and 9 is kind of like
they're not the same.
Well, either way, Eric and I both recommend that you check out Peacemaker. Of course, it is available on HBO Max, and you can binge the entire show if for some reason you stuck around and watched this whole episode. But we appreciate it. So, Eric, let's go ahead and wrap up here in just a moment. But first, we want to talk about some very special news. And for those of you, if you have not been able to watch the live stream, I'll probably cut this part up so we can put it over on our social media pages. But Eric, here coming up next month is Collective Con, which is a local convention, and it's more of the as opposed to some of the other conventions that we've worked, like Bold Matsuri and Brick City. Collective Con is more like a MegaCon, where there's a whole lot, a wider range of as far as artists, guests, things like that. Well, Collecticon, because it is put together by the same folks who do Bold Matsuri as well as Brick City Anime Festival, have been gracious enough to actually give us a booth at Collecticon, and that is going to be taking place March 11th through March 13th. So that is a Friday through Sunday. And you can find myself, Eric, and then a couple other members, new members of the Wait For It team, people that work behind the scenes and who have just been supporters of ours since day one. And we're super happy to bring them on board to help us with all these future projects. But we will actually be at Collective Con to talk about not only the show, but also talk about our appearance at Bold Matsuri in July. And Eric, as far as Collective Con goes, it sounds like maybe we're going to have, of course, a little bit of a fun giveaway for Collective Con as well, too.
Well, we do. And if you actually want to be a part of Collective Con, you can. You can join in on the fun. We are going to have 4 tickets to give away. We're going to give them out in sets of 2. So 2 lucky people are going to have 2 sets of tickets to be able to go ahead and bring themselves and a loved one or friend to the event. They're really, really considerate of Collective Con to be able to give us those tickets, to be able to do in a giveaway. And more details on what you need to do to enter will definitely be provided here in the near future, probably when you're seeing this in this cut up clip that Phil's going to be doing. So look forward to that. If you're not already following us on social medias, you definitely should be. Same thing with our YouTube channel. That's probably going to be a big push towards this. And again, we're just super excited to see you guys there. But hopefully, again, some of you guys will get some free tickets out of this and see us at Bold Matsuri in July as well.
And those tickets, Eric, are weekend passes. So you'll get to go Friday, Saturday, and Sunday if you see fit. But so we'll be giving away those. Likely, Eric, if I had to guess, we'll give out the full details on Wednesday's episode of What Did I Miss? So if you guys have not, if you guys are looking forward to that, make sure you check that out, and we'll make sure to give you all the details on how to win those tickets. But Eric, is there anything else that you wanted to discuss here, whether it be for Collective Con, Bold Matsuri, or Peacemaker? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and get out of here in just a moment.
No, this has been a lot of fun. We plan on doing some more stuff with the YouTube channel later on in the year. So for now, we've got some reviews coming up. Trying to do one at least once a month, every other month if we can on the page. But we got a lot more stuff planned. Phil, if we want to let everybody know where to find us, we should be able to close this thing out. And again, make sure to listen out for more if you're here in Jacksonville about Collective Con.
That is right, folks. So as mentioned, we are primarily a podcast over on literally anywhere you listen to podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music. Shout out to Buzzsprout, of course, as always, for hosting the show. If you are finding the podcast over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please do us a favor and leave us a 5-star review. Of course, the YouTube link to this YouTube page is in all of our, I don't know what I'm doing with my hands, it can be found in each and every show. As far as the in the show notes, you can also find us on social media on Facebook and Instagram at Wait For It Podcast and on Twitter at Wait For It Pod. But with that being said, Eric, I think we are good to go and we can get out of here.
Yeah, we can. My name is Mr. Eric Almighty. That is my co-host. Damn it. Phil the Filipino. And don't forget, we release new episodes on our podcast every Monday and Wednesday with the occasional bonus content here on YouTube. And all you have to do is wait for it. Yeah.
Mr. Eric Almighty and Phil the Filipino? Yeah, they've got you covered. And all you gotta do is wait for it. This is the Wait For It Podcast.